Hey guys, we are here for our lesson in Chapter 7 called Probability. Take a look here at the top of page 11, title Probability. Before we get started into our examples, I actually would like you to copy down some terminology. So we can pause the video in a minute to let you do that. But for now, the first thing I want you to write down is a definition of probability. Probability is the likelihood of something happening. We deal with probability every day. The formula for probability is that probability equals the number of ways it can happen divided by the total number of outcomes. And the final two things I'd like you to write down is that when you see the word or, you have to add, and when you see the word and, you have to multiply. So we're going to pause it here so you can jot this down. Okay, now we're moving on. Example 1. It says, given the number wheel below, right here, answer the following. Let's take a look at question A. What is the probability of choosing an odd number? Okay, so we have to figure out the number of ways that can happen. Like, how many odd numbers do we have? So we've got, if we look at this wheel, 1's an odd number, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, and 15. So in all, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 ways, 8 different ways we can choose an odd. That's the number of ways it can happen, divided by the total number of outcomes. Well, the total number of numbers on this wheel is 16. So you have an 8 out of 16 chance of choosing an odd number. Now, we can reduce that. Of course, I know you can reduce that in your head, but we can also reduce it using alpha y equals numerator over denominator. 8 over 16, of course, is 1/2 or 0.5. If I wanted to change that back to a fraction, I would just do alpha y equals fraction to decimal, and there's the 1/2. So I actually want to represent this both ways. So I'm going to reduce this to 1/2 or 0.5, and then last but not least, I'm going to change that to a percent. If I take this decimal and move it 2 slots to the right, I'll be at 50%. So I have a 50% chance of choosing an odd number, and that equals my probability. Okay? Let's look at the next one. What is the probability of choosing an even number? Okay, so let's take a look at our even numbers on the wheel. Even numbers, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, and 16. Let's count those up. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so there's also 8 even numbers out of the total, which is 16. So this is going to reduce exactly like the first one did. So that kind of makes sense. I have an equal number of evens as odds, so I have a 50% chance of each event happening. And this is my probability. Okay? Part C. What is the probability of choosing a prime number? Okay, well, we have to know what a prime number is in order to do this. Prime numbers are numbers that are divisible only by themselves and 1. Now, there is some debate over whether or not 1 is actually a prime number. I consider 1 to be a prime number, so I'm going to include it. So if I look at my prime numbers here, I would have, let me go over these in pink. 1 is a prime number, 2 is a prime number, 3 is a prime number, 4 is not because 2 divides into 4, 5 is prime, 6 is not, 7 is, 8 is not, 9 is not, 10 is not, 11 is, 12 is not, 13 is, 14 is not, 15 is not, and 16 is not. So if I count up my pink circles here, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have 7 prime numbers on this wheel out of 16 numbers. Now this one's not going to reduce. If I try to reduce 7 out of 16, let's see what that gives me. 7 out of 16. It does give me the decimal, but if I try to convert that back to a fraction, it's just going to take me right back to 7 over 16. So I'll just go straight to the decimal, 0.4375, which as a percent, if I move it 2 to the right, would be 43.75%. So I have a lower probability. I have less of a chance of choosing a prime number than I do either an even number or an odd number, because there are less of them. Okay, and this is probability. I always forget to put my notation out front. Okay, let's go back up here to letter D. What is the probability of choosing a 5 or an even? Now there creeps in that word or. And up above we wrote down that or means add. So the very first thing I'm going to do when I see that or, I'm going to put a plus. And I'm going to put 2 probabilities, one on each side of that plus, because or means add. And then I do my probabilities separately. So the probability of choosing a 5, well, there's only one 5 on the wheel. So I have a 1 out of 16 chance of choosing a 5. Now, or an even. Well, I have 8 even numbers on the wheel out of 16. So if I take 1 over 16 plus 8 over 16, I get 9 over 16. This is going to be my probability. Now let's reduce that out. You can either, again, do it in your head. I like to do alpha y equals 9 divided by 16. There it is as a decimal. Let me see if that will also convert to a different fraction. Nope, 9/16 is 9/16. It doesn't reduce. So I'm just going to do 0.5625. 0.5625, which, if I move my decimal point 2 to the right, is going to give me 56.25%. Okay? And my last one here. What is the probability of choosing a 3 or a 4? There's that word or again. So I'm going to do a plus with 2 probabilities. The probability of choosing a 3, well, there's only one 3, so 1 out of 16. Plus, the probability of choosing a 4, there's only one 4 on the wheel out of 16. 1/16 plus 1/16 is 2/16. Now I know that reduces to 1/8. Let's see what it is as a decimal. Alpha y equals 2 over 16. Okay, so as a decimal, it's 0.125. If I convert it using number 4, fraction to decimal, or decimal to fraction, I get that 1/8. So 1/8, which equals 0.125, or 2 to the right, 12.5%. And this is, again, my probability. So that's example 1, all done out. Okay, let's flip the page to page 12 and finish up here with example 2, our final example in this section. Example 2, it says you roll a die. Okay, now you just have to think of dice means 2, die is 1. So you're like playing a board game. When you roll the die, you're just rolling the 1. There are 6 sides on a die. And to do this, we're going to answer these questions. So letter A, what is the probability that you roll an even number? Well, probability will equal, you know it's a fraction, you know the total number of outcomes when you roll a 6-sided die is 6. Now, an even, we have to think about how many evens are on a die. Well, you've got the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So the evens would be the 2, the 4, and the 6, which is a total of 3 sides. So 3 out of 6 sides have an even number, so you have a 3 out of 6 chance of rolling an even number. That reduces to 1/2, or 0.5, or 50%. So you got a 50-50 shot when you roll a die of rolling an even or an odd. Okay, what is the probability that you roll an odd? Well, I think we kind of already answered that. Now we look at the odds. There are 3 odds on a die. Those sides are numbered 1, 3, and 5. So you have a 3 out of 6 chance, or 50%, of rolling an odd. Okay. Moving on, letter C. What is the probability of rolling a 4? Well, that's pretty simple. There's only one side of the die that has a 4 on it, so you have a 1 out of 6 chance. If I take 1 divided by 6, I have 0.16 repeating. 0.16 repeating. And if I change that into a percentage, I'm going to move that 2 spots to the right. That would be 16.6%, which I can just round to 17%. Letter D. What is the probability you roll a 4 or a 6? There's that word or again. So I'm going to plus 2 different probabilities. And what I have is the probability I roll a 4 is 1 out of 6. And the probability I roll the number 6 is 1 out of 6. So 1 out of 6 plus 1 out of 6 is 2 out of 6. 2 out of 6 reduces to 1/3. If you take 1 divided by 3, you get 0.3 repeating, which is the same as 33%. We're moving right along here. Letter E. Now you roll the die twice in a row. What is the probability you roll a 3 and then a 2? And there's our first and of the day. So let me set this up. Probability equals, and means multiply. So I'm going to multiply 2 probabilities together. Okay, let's do the first one. What is the probability you roll a 3? Well, you only have a 1 out of 6 shot of rolling a 3. And then a 2. You only have a 1 out of 6 shot of rolling the number 2. When you multiply, you can take your TI, you can do alpha y equals, you can do 1/6 times, do it again, 1/6, and that gives you 0.027 repeating, it looks like. If I want to convert that to a fraction, number 4, I get 1/36. That's what I really wanted you to see, because when you multiply fractions, you do top times top. 1 times 1 is 1. 6 times 6 is 36. And that decimal, like I said, is 0.027 repeating, which as a percentage, if I go 2 to the right, would be 2.8% if I'm rounding. Okay? Last but not least, now you roll a die twice in a row again. What is the probability you roll an even number and then a 1? And then indicates multiplication. So, multiply 2 probabilities. First is, what is the probability you roll an even number? There are 3 even numbers on a 6-sided die. And then a 1, there's only one side that has the number 1 on it out of 6 sides. So I multiply across. 3 times 1 is 3. 6 times 6 is 36. 3 divided by 36 reduces to 1/12. 1 divided by 12 is 0.083 repeating, which as a percent would be 8.3%. And that's it for your probability notes. Thanks for watching.